I want to talk about a good friend of mine, a really good friend of mine, Mike Murnane. Mike Murnane. Wow. Gaucho numero uno. Number one cowboy. Elder. The tracker. Chime. The one-eyed gunsling. He's got two eyes, but he's got one eye that'll fucking get you. It'll get you. It got me. I mean, it's interesting. I was a little intimidated by Mike when I first met him. I mean, he may have been intimidated by me. I don't know. But he was a little bit older. He was already working at the company that I got my first stop motion job at. He was a sculptor, concept artist, puppet department designer, character designer, essentially. But he did all of the, well, not all of them. He and Norm DiCarlo did all the sculpts that went into the molds that created the puppets for that show. And Mike was really funny back then. I mean, he still is. He's hilarious. But he had a swagger and a sarcasm and a poke you out of your comfort zone, goofy sense of humor. Although he would, what do you call it? Defang you. Just immediately assault you with something goofy that just would take the piss out of you and, warm your heart. He's so funny, but so curious and childlike and interested in banter. He definitely understands how to talk and how to share and how to laugh and how to smile. He threw some of the best parties I've ever been to in my entire life. A tradition for him is a party that he throws for his own birthday. And he would do clown-themed parties. He co-threw a handful of superhero parties. His clown-themed parties were like, cyber clown, cowboy clown, all the flavors of clown that there are. And his relationship with clowns runs super deep. He is just a deep thinker. He's one of my best friends. When I finally had my big Mike Murnane breakthrough, we became like best friends in San Francisco back in I think it was like the early 2000s, late 90s kind of thing. I first met him in the early 90s, and then by the mid 90s we were pals, and by the late 90s we were like besties. We would just meet at a cafe with our sketchbooks and draw. We would smoke a little herb, and then we would sit down and get like free refills in our coffee, and we would just draw. That was back when coffee was like $1.25. It wasn't this snobby, weird, trippy thing it is now, thanks to I don't know, Seattle. No, it's two good friends with giant sketchbooks, and we would pass our sketchbooks back and forth, and we would draw on each other's pages, and we would co-draw, and we drew and drew and drew and drew. We spent years just drawing together. We'd make films together, you know. We made little pop-up weird films. We made a Western film. We were in an independent little theater group together, the Red Rocket Theater. We were in plays together. You know, we wrote things together. We would get together and just aim cameras at each other and ourselves and just make interesting films. Sometimes Tori Belleci would jump in, or Mike Eater, or I don't know, other cool cats that were kind of around. But it was mostly me and Mike. And one time we took me, Mike Murnane, and Mike Eater jumped in my old, what was it, a Chevy? No, it was a Dodge Dart. It was like a 62 Dodge Dart. And we brought a bunch of costumes, brought a bunch of cameras, and it was between jobs, and we just took off, and we drove straight to Truckee and then to Reno. The problem was when we got to Truckee, Nevada, I believe, my car exploded. It had had enough. I think we were too much for that car. The car was like, you guys are gonna have fun, but you know, I used to have fun like that 30 years ago. I can't do fun like that anymore. And the whole engine block, like, it had plenty of oil, it was just died. You know, sometimes cars just die. And this car finally fucking died. And I was a AAA member. I called AAA, and the guy goes, you know, you're up to 100-mile tow anywhere you want for free. I could technically just tow you to Reno. And we were like, okay, but can one of us stay in the car? Because it was a little crowded for all of us to get in the cab with the tow truck guy. Two of us stayed in the car, and then the third. So me and Mike Murnane stayed in the car, and Mike Eater got into the cab. And the car was face backwards, and we went from Truckee all the way to Reno with like a bong and a bunch of wild and crazy costumes, face backwards in an old Dodge Dart, being hauled behind a tow truck. And it was great. It was like we weren't bugged by anything. You know, a lot of times people would be like, oh, this is crisis, and we have to respond by freaking out. My car died. Oh, I was just like, we were making jokes, immediately making jokes. And then when the tow truck guy came, he realized what a pack of fucking goofballs we were. And he was game to play along. He was like, let's keep your party going, huh? We had these polyester, like, leisure suits, and we had a whole agenda. You know, we had briefcases. And it was like it was some sort of clandestine meet, some sort of gangster kind of government secret meetup in Reno. There was no story. We were coming up with the story as we were experiencing the experience. And when we finished editing it, we called the short film 8 Feet of Corn. 8 Feet of Corn became kind of like this primal, like, animal call. We would just start singing like 8 feet of corn, 8 feet of corn, 8 feet of corn tonight. We would have scenes that the only thing that would happen would be like Mike Murnane would be like wearing these ridiculous, huge, oversized sunglasses with like a skin-tight polyester shirt and huge bell bottoms, and he would be like, bet, bet, bet. And it was like lyrics to a song. It was like music video footage. And we knew whatever we ended up editing together, it was going to be epic, but we just sort of let that intention, we set that intention early and just let it kind of all happen naturally. It was one of the best trips I ever went on in my entire life. Thanks to the love and bond that I shared with Mike, with two Mikes, Mike and Mike. Mike Murnane and I had a radio show we called Mike and Mish in the Morning. And we would get together and record episodes of Mike and Mish in the Morning. And it was just us ranting and raving and carrying on the microphone, because all we wanted to do was be just fucking stupid goofballs. There's a great Super 8 film that I shot of Mike Murnane. He is wearing a giant afro wig and the biggest 70s style bell bottoms you've ever seen. It puts John Travolta in Staying Alive to shame. These were just like skirts on each leg, and we shot high speed, the slow motion of him just like with platform boots on, just strutting around Upper Haight, Coal Valley. That's where I lived. And it was Mike. I mean, Mike brought the funk. He brought the theatrical flares. He was nothing but generous when it came to sort of theater games. You know, he liked to do a lot of yes and, a lot of improv. And we found the same sorts of things really, really funny. I'm still collaborating with Mike. I mean, I'm dropping the ball right now, but Mike and I have, throughout COVID, kind of kept each other on track with a little personal project. Bunny Cat, you know, we, along with Jim Randall was the spearhead of this. He said, you know, I recommended you, Misha, to teach a class for the Stan Winston online school. And so I said, well, can I bring my buddy Mike, fold him in as a character designer, a story guy? And the three of us, we created this character, Bunny Cat. Jim made this beautiful armature. Mike made a killer puppet, and it's in my lap right now. I gotta start animating it. And that was the culmination of just years of conversating and talking about animation and movement and pantomime and sci-fi and character design and spirituality between the inanimate and the spiritual world, magic, and how important it is to sort of remain open to our multiverse. We talked about how we are essentially avatars. We talked about how stop motion puppets are essentially avatars. We talked about languageless story that is held together with strict movement and pantomime. We talked about, all the great silent movie stars like Chaplin and Keaton, and the list goes on. We dream together, Mike and I. In fact, oftentimes when we just chit-chat on the phone, it immediately goes to the most esoteric realms you can imagine. He's one of those guys I can talk to about life and family, and he can talk to me. He knows he can talk to me. He opens up about relationships, and we have a special respect and this incredible affection for one another. He can give tough love like nobody's business. If I get super phone flaky, he will give me one little karate chop to the solar plexus, and I feel it for weeks. And then I recover and go back to my flaky ways, and then he has to give me another one. You need friends to splash cold water on you sometimes, especially if you're a dad. You get shoved up your own ass, and you really stop making the effort. Mike and I talk about this. A lot of relationships have been reduced to likes on social media. I liked your thing. I gave you a thumbs up on that. Didn't you see the little comment I left on your... It's like, that's not a relationship. That's the equivalent of you, like, coming over to my house and just, like looking through my bedroom window at me and taking pictures, but not telling me you're there, not ringing or knocking on the front door, and then texting those pictures to me later, like, see, I came over. It's like, great, well, you've also avoided any real contact. That's congratulations. You are able to maintain a relationship without any onus, any responsibility, any obligations. And I get it. That's the goal for so many people. But for me and Mike, he's one of the few people that I fucking call. I don't text, I fucking call him. And he picks up if he has time. And if I have time, I pick up. And we talk for like 2 hours. And we inevitably spend the first, 20 minutes kind of guilt-tripping each other, like, fucking hey, man, you're really getting flaky. And then once we're over that, it's just, we're off to the races. It's a lifelong friendship. That's what it feels like to me. It feels like the real McCoy. And you don't get too many of those. I don't get too many of those. 1, maybe 2. True friends. Matt Hazelrig's in that inner circle for me. Mike Murnane is one of the luminary stars in a very small constellation of true blue friends. He and I share so many overlaps. We've got family overlaps. It's early childhood tragedies. A love of not only film but abstract, expressionistic type film. Using film in an open, improvisational way to express the glory of the moment. Treating film like an artist treats, a poem or panel in a sketchbook. Getting right with life being the priority. Oftentimes if you're too ambitious, life no longer is top of the list. Your career is, your job title, your bragging rights. Not with Mike. Mike is a real human being that is alive and embodied on this planet, having his real experience and forcing you to reckon with that. And I fucking adore that about him. He's not some checked out tripper. I mean, he's trippy as fuck, and sometimes he can be a little checked out, but it's funny. I don't love being stoned around Mike, because Mike can get pretty hyperbolic and tunnel vision in weird, trippy ways. But no matter what state of mind he's in, he's like one of my favorite people in the world. And I love me some Mike Murnane. You should too. Check him out on Instagram at MikeMurnane.com / Patreon. Dump a bunch of money in there. You won't be let down by the careful strategies that he puts forth and challenges you with, and forces you to endure thanks to your obligatory exchange. Mike Murnane, nothing but pure awkwardness in a goofy, confrontational, sidelong glance kind of way. Mike Murnane, a true American original. .org